The Marlins take the series against the Washington Nationals. I can't even speak now on the intro. Boy, oh boy, this is going to be take 2, maybe take 3, maybe take 4 with Danny the Godfather. He's back in the house. For those listening yesterday, the sound quality was not quite up to scratch. However, Jorge Soler's bat is up to scratch. The Marlins bullpen remains up to scratch. Edward Cabrera, 0 walks. UK-friendly game today. Eury Perez going. The Marlins looking for the sweep. Danny the Godfather in the house to dig into all of that on today's show.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England. Welcome to Locked On Marlins. This, of course, is your daily Marlins pod. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on Twitter at @MiamiMarlins_UK. Hit subscribe on the pods wherever you get them. It's your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. There is a YouTube channel. Head over there too. It's called Locked On Marlins. Hit subscribe. We're almost at 700 subs. Absolute scenes for the YouTube channel. If you are watching, you will see. And you would have seen yesterday briefly, but you will see Danny the Godfather back in the house. Let's see if we can get these audio issues corrected. Danny, how we doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm getting used to this. I'm getting accustomed to just being on here with Pete. I like it.
Absolutely, mate. I don't know what happened yesterday, and I apologize to everyone that tried to listen in. Something just went funky with the audio, and in the end, I just thought best to delete it, text Danny and say, we've got to hit it again. And that's what we're doing. So looking forward to it. Mate, but really the situation doesn't change. The prior day, we were speaking about a big home run from Jorge Soler. Today, we're speaking about a big home run from Jorge Soler. Skip Schumacher, post-game, describing him as a game changer, game-changing stick. How important has Jorge Soler been, not just for the Marlins currently, but equally looking forward to having this big guy in the lineup that can deliver the power. I think it's essential. What about you?
Absolutely. Important is the word, Pete. Yeah, we were on an island, some of us on Marlins Twitter, of begging people to stop putting Jorge Soler next to Avi Garcia's name over the rants that would happen this off season. And yeah. This was why. He was hurt last year, but he was on par for 29 home runs. Kim might count that as 30. He was on par.
She rounds up.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. So he was the stick that we needed. And now he's healthy and he is performing, and he is the game changer, and you've seen it on back-to-back days.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's so important to have that guy in the lineup. And yeah, to your point, last year, there was a cross connection that Avi and Jorge Soler's names were combined. They were both free agents, but Avisail Garcia was healthy for the majority of the season. He just underperformed. Mm-hmm. Jorge Soler was who we expected him to be. He just got hurt. And now this year, we're seeing the same dude again. He's on pace right now, and I did the numbers in advance of this episode. He's on pace for 41 bombs. Mm-hmm. And listen, I'm not even ruling out 50 if he gets really hot, to be honest with you. So the other thing to call out with Jorge Soler, though, there's obviously that opt-out, which he will opt out of. And so really, absolutely, this is going to be really intriguing to see where the Marlins sit with Soler, where Soler sits with the Marlins. But I don't see right now another player, maybe Encarnacion potentially, but I don't see another Jorge Soler that's ready or near ready in this Marlins organization, to be honest with you. So I'm kind of hoping they go down the extension pathway with Soler. I don't know how Soler feels about it, but how do you feel about it?
I mean, I would absolutely sign up for that. We spoke yesterday about Garrett Cooper and the qualifying offer and what that might look like. Jorge Soler is the bat that you want to keep, and he's having fun. And I know that we can all say that about all the players. Luis Arias says he loves Miami. We'll see when that comes up for an extension, right? But Soler, Cuban-American, down here in Miami, all the pop in the world, looking like Kansas City Royals. Soler, I think it makes a lot of sense, at least to understand that he's going to opt out and be ready to have those conversations over the summer.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of them you can already prepare for it. You know what will happen, and so it won't be a surprise right now for the front office. They have an indication of what will be happening there, and Yeah, it's a bit like the Starling Marte situation a few years ago, where it was kind of in their control. They left it a touch late, and then had to make the call to trade Starling Marte. That the Marlins had kind of fallen out of it. I think this year the way things feel a bit differently, though, in that situation is right now they're over 500. Okay, it's only mid-May, but maybe the expectation is the Marlins are hanging around at the deadline and actually wouldn't be looking to sell pieces, and so that kind of changes things a touch, I think, with Sorare in the front office. The other piece, too, as well, is Garrett Cooper expiring deal. I think he's come back in the lineup the last couple of days. We've seen how important Garrett Cooper is to this lineup. It feels like the Marlins line. It doesn't feel like the Marlins lineup is better when Garrett Cooper's in there.
Absolutely.
They have a decision to make as well with Cooper, right?
No, absolutely. It feels like he is one of these rare MLB fits for a qualifying offer. It feels like that makes sense. You give him the QO, he either takes it and he's back, or he goes and he sees what the market's all about and might end up coming back anyway, right? And if that's not the case, then you move Arias over to first, or you go get a first baseman somewhere, right? But both of those guys, the offense will look very different next year if they are not either extended or replaced. And that would be an issue because you simply do not have that slugging anywhere else. Even your best hitter, right? He's an elite hitter, but he's not going to be slugging the way that Cooper and Sorare do. So it would be absolutely irreplaceable without ownership spending some real money. And I think the money can just go to them to some extent when we're talking about those two positions.
Yeah, no doubt. It's fair to say that there's been some dialogue, I would describe it as on Twitter, some discourse around the catching position, it's fair to say, where, boy, oh boy, going into this season, I must say, many were extremely hyped about the catching situation, saying, actually, this is the one area where we have no concerns. Stalling showed a bit of a rebound in the second half or the back end of the year, post All-Star break. Fortes emerged and did well. I mean, I don't know what's happened to Jacob Stallings, but really, like, the offense is, there's average, there's below average, and then there's Jacob Stallings right at this point. The defense has dropped off too. Like, it's extremely concerning here, this Stalling situation and this catcher position. I thought the Marlins were fixed for multiple years. All of a sudden, there's a bit of a black hole in that spot. How can they adjust at this point? Because it's not easy to solve the catching situation, I think, on the fly mid-season. There's not a lot of stud catchers knocking around either, right?
No, it is not easy to fix, and it's not even just a hole. It's a historically bad hole. I think that someone tweeted out they have the lowest OPS in the history of baseball right now at that position, which is tough because, one, I will absolutely wear it that I wanted Stallings, and I thought that this was going to be one of the amazing masterclass trades, was getting a Gold Glove catcher to come and do this, and we were all wrong about that, I suppose. And then with Nick Fortes, it's tough because Pete, it wasn't a month ago that I tweeted out that his weighted runs created plus was higher than JT Realmuto's first 2 years as a Marlin. So this isn't someone who has come up and just been atrocious. This is someone who absolutely has ability, but man, both of them are not hitting right now yet. Both of them have a niche in this club. Stallings, you can make an argument, Sandy isn't who he's been over the last 2 years without him, and that goes the same for Fortes with some of the younger pitchers, right? It's tough, man. It's tough. I know Pedro Severino just opted out of his deal, I think, with the Padres. He's had a few good years. Maybe you bring him over, but then he needs to get to know the staff. And you got to ask Sandy if he's okay with that. And you have to ask the rest of the pitching staff if the marginal positives, or maybe not so marginal positives that you'll get offensively, are worth tinkering with the staff.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, really. I'm okay with there being a black hole offensively in the catching spot. There's a black hole for many clubs, to be honest with you, in this spot. And I think it boils down to, what does the rotation need and want? How do they feel about this situation? How much impact, positive or negative, could there be if a change was made? And I think that's probably your deciding or your main lead indicator with that kind of decision. And again, the Marlins don't have a ton of dudes knocking around internally in the organization that they can kind of lean on at this point. And so it feels like Stallings and Fortes are they're not feeling the heat from below them, let's say, in the minor leagues. But yeah, to your point, maybe a couple of guys, there's a few guys that you could take a flyer on, maybe in free agency at this point. But I don't know. I think that is the question to ask internally. Sandy, Eddie, Eury, how are you feeling? How are you feeling, and how much would this impact you if we made a change? And if there was any negative impact, I would say just roll with it, because it feels like the pitching has been off to a slow start, mate. It's fair to say, it's slower than expected. I do feel like there's some momentum starting to build a touch. I think, we saw, in some ways, by some metrics, Edward Cabrera, 0 walks yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's a huge improvement for Eddie Cabrera. Sounds like he was dealing with a finger issue, though, yesterday, some sort of blister. So he came out of the game a touch earlier than expected. But rotation feels like it's starting to get there. If the catching situation were to change, and that would impact it, I think perhaps you wouldn't take the risk. Let's slide over to Eddie, though, mate. What did you make of his start yesterday? Like I said, the highlight reel is 0 walks, which is great to see. For me, those 3 innings a few days ago, his last start out, were the best 3 innings he's thrown easily. I don't know what happened in the 4th inning, but yesterday, again, the stuff was there playing again. It always plays with Eddie Cabrera, right?
Absolutely. I think that's just the book on him, right? He has stuff, and I think someone on the broadcast said this yesterday. He has the stuff to one day throw a no-hitter, and you wouldn't blink an eye at that because it wouldn't be a surprise. And then on that next day, he might give up 10 runs. And that's because his fastball wasn't being commanded the way it needed to, and the off-speed wasn't there. And there's something about that high volatility that is exciting and is also very obviously nerve-wracking. Right?
Yeah.
He is who maybe some thought a volatile Sandy would look like. Is this guy who's going to just walk all over the place? Well, Sandy has elite control of his body, elite control of repeating his delivery. And I think Sandy has that bulldog mentality and something psychological there that works with him. Well, they've paired them up a lot. Sandy needs to give some of that to Eddie, and I'm sure that Eddie is picking up on it. And it was nice to see the 0 walks. Everyone's going to fixate on that appropriately because his walk to K ratio isn't exactly what we want it to be. But it was lovely to see. And I'll say this last point. It sucks that it's a blister, and hopefully it resolves itself before his next start. But even if Skip had taken him out then, although a bit aggressive, maybe you should have given him the 6 if it wasn't a blister, right?
Yeah.
I still like it. I do. I give him that win, man. You have your pen, get Eddie back on track, and let the game resume as it did, and an eventual victory anyway.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point as well, right? Just kind of add into the confidence for Eddie, just, get him out of there. He gets the dub, hand it over to the bullpen. Another close game. The Marlins are forever in close games, no doubt. I think they're going to be in close games all season. UK-friendly game happening right now, or will be happening very shortly. Likely another close game we expect to see probably. I want to talk to you about Eury Perez. Before we do that, though, it's time to let you know about our sponsor. New sponsor, Birddogs. For those who listened to yesterday's episode, they would have seen this. For those that missed the episode, this was the first time dropping this ad. The Birddogs, I have to say about these guys, go and check it out. A lot of fun. The main thing that comes through from these guys is the comfort levels. If you like shorts and translating it into American, slacks, joggers, any of these kind of products, then the Birddogs are absolutely for you. They fit amazing. They're there, built for comfort. Stretchy fabrics, that's what it's all about. Stretchy fabrics that look great and are comfier than anything else that you've got out of there, no doubt. And also versatility. Whilst, you go with them on the golf course, but then you nicely segue into a few cocktails after. We've all been there. Then these are the ones for you guys, no doubt about it. They also have tons of fun names in terms of their product names. So go and check those out as well. A lot of fun. Here's the other beauty. They also have an offer on at the moment. So if you go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb, and when you enter the promo code lockedonmlb, all caps, all one word, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every single order. So not only do you get some stunning shorts, slacks, jogging bottoms that fit amazing, feel good, you look good, you play good, you get the free tumbler as well. Hook it up. There you go. Looking forward to hearing from everyone about their favorite product name. For those listening and for those that go on YouTube and leave comments, please let me know your favorite product name that you spot in there. I think there may be in there hidden away a Brinsanity pair of shorts. Who knows? See if you can spot it. Okay, so Eury Perez was the big story last week, mate. Huge story. The Marlins decide to pull the trigger and go aggressive, getting the 20-year-old, only just 20-year-old, in many people's eyes, best pitching prospect in baseball. Skip AAA, AA, parachute straight in to the big league club. And Eury Perez, for me, did not disappoint last week. What was your take on his debut first, Danny?
He looked as advertised, didn't he? And there's something about the psychology of someone who knows that they have the talent and just doesn't mess around with it. And I get it's just one start, but when you see him in the minor leagues, that's who Eury was. He's going at you, and he knows that he has the stuff. He knows that he can win most 50-50 battles with you, and he trusts his ability to repeat that, which is another big part of it with Sandy, especially being a big guy the way that he is, which is crazy. I mean, when you see him, it looks like he towers over Sandy, which is absurd because Sandy towers over most men, mere mortals compared to them. But no, he's another guy that has great stuff. And of course, there's going to be volatility there, but I don't think it's going to be the same as what we see with Eddie. He seems like he has this nice entry level start into his career, right? He has the Reds, he has the Nationals now, and you should take every team damn seriously, and I get that. I think then he would line up with the Rockies, and that would be interesting to see in Coors. Yeah. But hopefully it allows that mentality to click in. Versus if he was facing the Dodgers, the Rays, and the Braves, maybe that Bulldog, I can beat you mentality wouldn't be there, and maybe it would. But man, it has to be a little easier when you're not facing Murderer's Row. So hopefully he takes advantage of that, and he can do it even now. I'm sure by the time people are listening to this, he's on the mound. So hopefully a good outing to come.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the Marlins are going to manage him closely, but to me, from what Skip said post-game after his first start, like, Eury's in the rotation for the foreseeable. I mean, the Marlins need him. They've obviously had issues with Johnny Cueto, Trevor Rogers. They multiple long men cycling in as well, Smeltzer and Hoeing, et cetera, But sounds to me, results dependent as well, clearly. But Eury's going to get a good kind of run at this now. And, the Marlins have started the clock. So why not? I mean, if he's pitching at this level, Skip said he's ready. To your point as well, he's got a nice kind of, the stabilizers are on a touch with the Reds and the Nats and the Rockies, et cetera. Coors will be a challenge. But, I think this is going to be a relative kind of permanent situation here for Eury Perez at the major league level. What about you?
Absolutely. I'll co-sign on that. If he even remotely performs, it's not even a question, right? If he even remotely performs well, even if he's hovering around a 4 ERA, let's say, after his first 4 starts, if you're not losing games for us, you get to stay. This is a prized, amazing pitcher who can also be a lightning rod for you. Why not? This team is doing well. They are a game over 500. We mentioned it yesterday. Best start since 2017. And before 2017, you have to go back quite a ways to get there. So let's see it. Let's be aggressive. Hopefully his stuff shows, and then he stays.
Yeah, no doubt. Also, yesterday, what we get to see as well was, God taketh, but God giveth. AJ Puck goes down, but almost, in synced up. That's the word I was thinking of then. They're synced up anyway. JT Chargois comes back in the house. And I think, for me, that was huge. That was, if there was like Puck goes down, and next thing is you're kind of trying to mix and match, and you do lose a leverage guy. And listen, the Marlins need all the leverage guys they can get this year, and those guys are all performing. But to get Chargois back at exactly the time when you lose Puck, I think was huge. We then get Chargois going into the game yesterday, couple of Ks. And to me, before he went down, he was looking immense. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could play a huge role for the Marlins in this bullpen right now. And I know Floro's had some opportunities to save some games and hasn't let anyone down thus far. But it wouldn't shock me, depending on the length of this Puck injury, if JT Chargois out there closing games at some point for the Marlins. Like, I do feel that Skip rates him that highly. What have you made of his early start with the Marlins?
I mean, first off, what a great trade, right? I believe that's the same trade that brought in Xavier Edwards, your starting fielder today, So what a great trade seemingly thus far. Second, absolutely, it's not just high leverage, but it eats up innings from guys now that don't have to be pushed into that high leverage. And then third, Pete, he was brought into a tough spot, right? There's one man on at first. He gets brought in, and then Birdie has that unfortunate error, if I'm remembering correctly, that gets the guys on to second and third, I think with 0 outs. And he works around that to just allow 1 run to come in, right? So it's not even, oh, congratulations, here's an easy, clean inning for you. Here's a guy on first. Your defense made it worse, and now you got to get out of it. And he did, and you saw that 97 heater. I mean, yes, would it be nice to have Puck? Would it be nice to have all of the healthy bodies? Absolutely. But it's nice to see God giveth a little bit too.
Yeah, no doubt. It was great to see. Speaking of God giveth, I've got another ad queued up for us here. It was so rare, and so let's get into these boys, and then we'll wrap up here as we head towards first pitch almost already, which is crazy. But guys, if you haven't heard about So Rare, it's a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 major league teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards. There's no cost to play. Yes, you heard that right. It's free. This game is free. Unbelievable. Game weeks, they happen twice weekly with a span of 3 to 4 days. At the end of the game week, managers who rank at the top or near top of the leaderboards win a variety of rewards. It can include So Rare scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. So all you have to do is head to sorare.com/lockedon. If you're wondering how to spell it and you haven't got the graphics to help you, it's spelled so as in S-O and rare as in R-A-R-E. Sorare.com to draft your team of free player cards. Set your lineup and start competing today to win, yes, in bold, underlined, and probably italic, epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. Wonderful. How about that? So I did want to go back to yesterday slightly. One thing that I don't think we even spoke about, but I wish we had. So I'm glad we have this second bite of the cherry here. Jazz Chisholm Jr., we talked about that injury, the impact, etc., etc. What we didn't think about or speak about was maybe the future impact with Jazz. And I'd say something that Craig Mish had mentioned at some stage, kind of going down the Byron Buxton methodology here. Do the Marlins need to consider getting Jazz out of the field, full stop, and just prioritizing the stick? Byron Buxton has been the primary DH for the Twins this year. And, you know, that's driven by the fact that he kept missing a ton of time. He'd start the year, he'd be on fire, and then he'd get hurt in the field. And that would just be repeating year after year after year. So the question comes for the Marlins, when, if, do they make that same kind of call with Jazz? Or, I don't know what the other option is. You guess you just keep hoping for different results. Where's your head at on that one? I do think it's an interesting dilemma. Clearly, Jazz has been amazing in center field this year, which is, you know, it's hard to kind of move away from that. But I don't know. I can see where Craig's coming from on that. Where's your head at on that one?
I would imagine the first thing is you're going to have to convince Jazz. I would imagine you're going to have to convince Jazz, because unlike Byron Buxton, he's not exactly extended yet, right? Which means if all of a sudden you are DHing someone who knows that there's more value out there in that free agency market if he's a second baseman or a center fielder, while it might help him stay on the field, it might hurt him later on. You know, so I think you're going to have to first convince him or extend him, and then, all right, you're with us. We're going to make you a DH, and that's what that's going to look like. And I would imagine the other prerequisite there is you have to have someone to play center field and second base. You know, so it's this tough spot where they have probably a few pending things that have to happen with him for that to be decided, right? And in MLB The Show, I suppose you just put him right at DH and you have to worry about it. But this is someone who's going to have thoughts about, well, how much money am I losing and what am I doing for my family? And I want to be out there. And I don't think it would be just as simple, right? So I think that the concept is really fair. I just think that Buxton was already there, right? Buxton was already extended and already knew he was going to be there. And it brings up the point of injuries being a real thing with this team, which we did flirt with yesterday. We spoke about how I don't think injuries are excuses. I think they are a real concept. As a matter of fact, I think once I started to bring this up, that's when the audio went out. I said something like, so hopefully not now. I said something like, go ask the Dolphins if they think that injuries are real or not with what happened with Tua and where that season was going. But what is an excuse is when we use injuries without criticizing the roster construction, which leads to the point of, yes, you better have depth. You better have Garrett Hampson or a better version, Xavier Howard's or a better version if you're going to do this, if you're going to pull Jazz Chisholm Jr. from center field. And then I guess the other thing that I would say here, which is a little bit of a sidestep, but I do want to say this, I want people to be okay with the fact that it's 22-21 right now and that the Marlins are playing 500 ball. Because last year when it was not 22-21, no one was hearing about the injuries. No one was hearing about the Pythagorean rhythm saying that, or the formula saying that they should be 500. No one was having that the run differential was around 500 ball. It was all, well, they suck. They're not winning. They're in fourth place. And that's the record is what the record is. All right. So if that's the case, then right now the record is that they are in a wild card spot, way too early to be considering that, and playing 500 or better ball, despite the injuries, despite the possible lack of depth, and despite the starting pitching not doing what they should be doing, right? So maybe it's my optimism and my blind homerism, or maybe we just need to be fair, that if we care about RDs and injuries last year, then we either care about it now, or we call a spade, and this team is playing well. So for fans, be excited about that. And for Jazz, I would imagine a conversation has to happen for that to take place.
It's a really great point you made on that. That is the difference there with Buxton is extended. He's committed to to Minnesota. Jazz, like you said, that will limit potentially his future earnings, and thus conversation would be different. But before they would make that move, I guess with Jazz, we'll wait to see. It's just maybe one of them freak injuries where he ends up hitting his toe on the one exposed part of the wall. That whether that should be the design feature or not, who knows? Freak injury, I don't know. I do think it's an interesting concept and conversation to have, because what we're seeing is a pattern of injuries appearing with Jazz now, much like with Buxton in some ways. Again, you could point to them being freak, I don't know, but the reality is the Marlins do need Jazz on the field more often than not, and I think it's about at times trying to protect him. But even so, the work and effort he's put into transitioning to center field has been immense, and I can only applaud him for that, to be honest with you. I've been totally blown away of how well he has transitioned to center field. It's blown my mind, to be honest with you. The dude is so talented, it's ridiculous. And it would be a big loss for the Marlins if they had to basically draw a line under that and say you're DHing only. And frankly, they probably need the DH spot for other guys anyway, the way this team will be built. So let's call it a day there. I feel like we've covered the right points, most of the points. Some people will see this as a double episode with Danny. Some people maybe missed yesterday's episode. I feel like the audio quality has been better, has held. I hope that is the case. I appreciate Danny for hopping on again 2 days on the spin. And guys, I appreciate you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday, because yes, of course, this is a daily pod, and it's going to be a solo pod. I'm going to recap today's action and equally look ahead to what should be, an interesting couple of weekends and a couple of series coming here for the Marlins. But let's hope they do the business today. Let's hope they get the sweep, and then also then start to look ahead at how they can keep the momentum rolling and build some margin for error on this 500 number. That's the plan. Guys, I appreciate it, and I appreciate Danny, and I'll see you tomorrow.